This is the lesson 7 of our free chess course, step by step to become an effective tournament player. I'm Coach Ed, and for today's lesson, we will discuss this interesting topic, stalemate. For some, this is unfortunate to encounter this one, especially if you are winning, but for some, it is lucky to encounter stalemate, especially if you are in a losing end. If you're ready, let's study this one. In our previous lesson, we discussed about the social distancing of our two kings, the special rules, they cannot touch each other, of course the check and the checkmate, but this time we will discuss the stalemate. Somehow look alike of checkmate, but it's not a checkmate. If you encounter that in the game, you experience that in a game, instead of you getting the whole point or the full point, the score will be half, will be share points by two players because it will lead to a draw game. Checkmate will lead to a win game. Stalemate will lead to a draw game. Let's recall the checkmate. Checkmate is if the king cannot go anywhere and under check. In this position, the queen is checking the king. The king cannot go anywhere. It's covered by the queen, covered by the king. It's all called checkmate. On the other hand, stalemate is the king cannot go anywhere but not under check, and no other piece to move aside from the king. So this is black to move, black's turn. Where will you go? Your king. You cannot go here because of the queen. Of course, two kings cannot touch each other, social distancing. So in this position, this is called stalemate, not a checkmate. So if this is stalemate, this is a draw game. I will give you more example. I mentioned earlier that stalemate if the king has nowhere to go, no other piece to move aside from the king, and king is not under check. In this position, king is not under check, the king cannot go anywhere. If, for example, the black has extra piece to move, example, there's a pawn here. So you are not forced to move the king because you have your pawn to move. So we are forced to move our pawn, moving here. Now it's white's turn. White will go for a checkmate. White can go here. Of course, that is check. Black king cannot go here. White can go here. Check. Black cannot go here. Where else? White queen can go here. Check. Black king cannot capture the queen from here because the king only move one step at a time. So this is called checkmate. You cannot go here as well. Checkmate. Two squares away from the queen, you cannot definitely capture that one, and king cannot go here, so this is called checkmate. If we will, for example, let's go back our pawn, we have our pawn here. Same position for the queen and the king. Is this stalemate? Yes or no? This is a stalemate. Why? Because this pawn cannot move because there's a white pawn blocking the way, and once again, the black king is cornered, not under check, and that is called stalemate. If we will put another pawn, for example, here, a spare piece to move, is this a stalemate? Yes or no? No, because once again, this pawn can move, forced to move, and of course, the queen once again will checkmate the black king. If, for example, let's just put another pawn here. Is this stalemate? Yes or no? Yes, because this pawn cannot move. There's a pawn blocking. Same thing here. This black pawn cannot move here. Okay, so let's do some activities here. Example number 1. Is this a checkmate or a stalemate? It's black to move. It's stalemate because the black cannot go here. The rook is guarding that square. The king cannot go here because of the king and the rook. And the king is not under check. Definitely, the rook is not checking the king diagonally. So this is stalemate. If this is white to move, you only have to do is to move away your rook to avoid the stalemate. But since this is black to move, the king cannot go anywhere. And this is called stalemate. Another example. Is this a stalemate or checkmate? So this is checkmate. Why? Because the king cannot go anywhere and the rook is checking the king. The rook is covering this 8 full rank, this is called checkmate. I will give you more example. Is this a checkmate or stalemate? You have to remind yourself, if the king has nowhere to go and not under check, stalemate. If the king has nowhere to go and under check, that is called checkmate. You have to check the possible square for your king. Can the king go here? No, because there's a bishop. Can the king capture the bishop? No, because there's a queen and king protecting the bishop. Can the king go here? No, because there's a king and queen protecting this square. So, is this a stalemate or checkmate? It's stalemate because there is no piece checking the king. This queen is not checking the king because there's a bishop blocking the way of the queen going to the king. Now, let's change the position. Is this a checkmate or stalemate? So, once again, the king cannot go here because of the bishop. The king cannot go here because of the king, queen. Same thing here. Is the king under check? Yes or no? Yes, the queen is now checking the king. Is this checkmate or stalemate? This is checkmate because the king cannot go anywhere and under check. Is this a checkmate or stalemate? Definitely, it's not checkmate because there is no piece checking the king, but the king has nowhere to go. So, is this a stalemate? No, because even though the king has nowhere to go, then there's a knight protecting the squares. Of course, two kings cannot touch each other. There's a pawn, spare piece for black to move. So the king is not forced to move. The black has to use its pawn to move one step, and white's turn now. White bishop will just go here, checking the king. Question, is this a checkmate now or stalemate? This is now checkmate because there's a check and king has no square. Okay, last one. The pawn is going here, going up. Is this a checkmate or a stalemate? This is black to move. This is what? A stalemate. Why? Because the pawn is going up. The pawn is covering these two diagonal squares. And the king cannot go here because of the king protecting that one. This is called stalemate. No other pieces to move for black. So, obviously, this is stalemate. So, once again, checkmate is if the king cannot go anywhere and under check. Stalemate is the king cannot go anywhere, not under check, and there is no other piece to move aside from the king. I hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you so much.